Divine afternoon, divine day, grand rising to your day. May be everything you require to create everything that you desire. Understand that healing is destructive. You are deserving, but you're not entitled. And this level of honesty is supposed to take you outside of your comfort zone. I was sitting here. All right, yeah, all that's in there. Boom. I was sitting here. Been sitting here, doing the works, doing the usual works. Really been taking these moments of deep reflection as I'm working, as I'm going through the things I'm going through, like moving everything around. And I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, as I go over here, open this up right here. Boom. Let's make that bigger. Going through that space for myself as I'm setting everything up. Community standards. I don't know what that means. We're not dealing with that. But I was thinking about how a lot of times I was manifesting a lot of my own detriment. I was manifesting a lot of my own detriments. I was manifesting a lot of my own detriments. I was manifesting a lot of my old aspects. I was always looking at myself like, why am I in the space that I'm in? Why is what's going on in my life going on in my life? Things of this nature. So I'm wondering like, why is my life happening the way it's happening? And why can't I seem to get what everybody else is getting or things of that nature? I'm sitting there like, yo, why can't I seem to come up on this and come up on that, and come up on that, and come up on this and come up on that? Like I was really deep into this aspect of myself, but thinking like, why can't I come into what it is that I'm wanting to come into? And then we coming into moments of self-reflection. What's up, fam? So I'm coming into these moments of self-reflection, like when I'm really looking at whether it's the aspects of the relationship, the aspects of things that I need to move forward with, things that I need to accept. I've done all of this work, but then I wasn't asking myself the real question. If I'm doing all of this work, if I'm doing everything that I say that I'm doing, am I accepting the lessons as I'm getting all this set up? Am I accepting the lessons from am I really applying from the lessons? Like if something doesn't work a certain way, if something isn't going down a certain way, something isn't doing if something isn't happening the way I need it to happen, am I applying to that lesson? Or am I simply going to be sitting there with myself and I'm be like, nah, I'm going to keep doing it the same way? Am I really applying to the lesson? Am I applying to my works? Am I applying to the lesson? Or am I trying to make things, am I really just trying to keep things in that same space? This goes into the aspects of the resource. Always looking at the aspects of the resources. A lot of times we're trying to manifest, you're trying to bring things into your space, you're trying to bring these things into attract these certain things. But if I ask you a question, I've asked this question before. I ask this question all the time. What does $10,000 look like to you? What does $10,000 look like to you? What does $1 million look like to you? What does being able to celebrate your business look like to you? What do these things look like to you? Because 9 times out of 10, when you're doing this, when you're manifesting, you're doing your work, these are the things that we're constantly bringing into our space. But since we're so used to putting ourselves, since I was so used to, for myself as in this example, I was so used to putting myself up against the wall. I was so used to put myself I was so used to backing myself into the corner. Yes, it was nobody backing me into the corner. I was backing myself into the corner. It was nobody putting me up against the wall. It was me putting myself up against the wall. It was nobody putting me in a position of where I had to fight my way out of it. There was nobody putting me in a position. There was nobody putting me in a position that I had to fight my way out of it. There was no one putting me inside of a position that of any of these aspects that caused my detriment. And even if they were the feedback to me already being that, they were the feedback to me already being that. I want you to understand this aspect, like, of you manifesting your own. They are the feedback of whatever. They are the feedback of me not paying attention. They're the feedback of me not listening. They're the feedback of me not investing in change. They're the feedback of me staying too long. They're the feedback to it. So when I'm looking inside of my space and I'm looking at what's coming into my space, I'm like, oh, that's what that is. It wasn't the fact that it wasn't from this state in my mindset where I'm thinking like, oh my God, well, they're supposed to be doing this and that. No, in reality to the space, they were the feedback of me not doing something. And I'm trying to make a valid, I'm trying to create a resource, but I'm doing it backwards. A lot of times we go into the space, I'm going to build this example. I'm going to use this example. I remember when I first was going public in 2020, when I was going public with, I was going public with providing services, providing the full range of services, therapy, everything of this nature. I remember being inside of this space. I remember as it stuck out to me like it was yesterday. I remember sitting in that space and I'm sitting there like, all right, cool. I need a website. I know I need a website, as an example. I need a website. Okay, cool. I need the phone line. Okay, cool. I need this, and this. I didn't realize that even inside of that space with myself, how I was still using the old definitions. Cause while I had, like, when I was still working, unemployed, all this money was coming in, I didn't understand, like, I was still using money based under the old definition. My old defining how I define money. Money is my resource. Therefore, money gets me the things that I need because money is my resource. So it didn't matter what I was putting together, what I was building, what I'm doing. Money was my resource. So I felt like I needed money to do this or money to do that, or I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. So naturally, me creating from that space, everything that I did was based on money. Even though I would say it's not about the money, even though I was saying it's not about the money, it's not about this. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to just bring people into that space of healing, create that space. There were still definitions that were within my space that were about money. But instead, remember last week we talked about, instead of reacting to, you're responding through. I'm looking at the people that are coming to me. I'm looking at the people that are coming to me. Everybody that was coming to me was feedback. Cause they all had this, most of the people that were coming to me that were nitpicky about services. They were nitpicky about services. How much is this? How much is that? They asked me the price for it. Like, the person that they're asking me the price for everything with no intention to purchase anything. And instead of me getting triggered, this is a learning process. Instead of me becoming triggered by these people, I learned from it. Because the only way these people can come into my space is if it's still going on inside of me. If it's still going on inside of my dialogue, my mental dialogue. If it's still going on inside of me because of my dialogue. So then ultimately me sitting in the space like, okay, cool. Yeah, they over there kicking the tire like, how many miles you said is on this? How many miles you got? How many miles you said they got on this? It's like, but instead of me sitting there reacting, be like, instead of me making a reaction and going on to my Facebook page and making this big ass fucking post talking about don't come into my inbox unless you're really serious about services. Instead of me doing that, I've never done it before. I've never did it before. I'm not one to put the negative. I've never done it before. So why was I going to start doing it then? See, when you're coming into this space with yourself, it's the things that are a lot of these things that challenge the not. I've never done that shit before. I was never one to go, let me go put this whole post about, let me state what I don't want to come into my life and these are the things I'm not looking for. These are the things that all I'm doing is programming the space. Because of course, if I put out the negatives of the don'ts, of course, all I'm doing is giving out the information. I'm giving out the key code to how do you come approach me. Now, I'm not saying in the sense, this is based in the sense, I'm not saying if somebody disrespect you. No, actually, I am saying that. We going all the way on it. I'm saying it from the space that ultimately the things that you do to yourself, for yourself, that's what goes out. That means, use an example. Me, I know that I already knew that I was far and in between detached from a lot of family members and things of that nature. I already knew it. I knew I was different. I was never on the inside aspect of it, things of that nature. I remember trying to force my way into that space in some way, shape, or form. But then when I really got the unbiased, this is the key, that unbiased, impartial. It wasn't based on cognitive dissonance. It wasn't based on so I could maintain an identity. When I realized how a lot of these spaces were created and why I didn't have access to that space. Remember last week we talked about the aspect of access. Why I didn't have access to that space, I was like, oh, damn, that's why I couldn't go there. So it goes into the same narrative of when you're building yourself, you're basically doing a rebranding. You're rebranding everything down. Remember, everything, you still thinking everything happens down here on the physical aspect. It don't. Nothing happens new down here. Nothing happens down here. You can do physical things down here in the aspects of your work because you're in a physical form, but everything you're doing starts in the aspect of that mental mind, that mental state. That's where everything's going to start. So everything's feeding and gravitating from that. But if I'm sitting inside of a space and I'm used to backing myself up against corners, I'm used to putting myself up against the wall. I'm used to having to fight my way out of things. I'm used to having to prove myself. I'm used to having to fight for what I'm trying to get. I'm used to fighting for the scraps, and I'm used to doing these narratives I'm used to holding things in. I'm used to biting my tongue. I'm used to doing a lot of these things. I don't understand that those are my personalized trauma responses. Remember, what we've been getting into over these last couple of months, and what we're going into is like there's no more generic aspect. You have to understand how these things it's always been based on how it corresponds to you. So a lot of the things, like I'll use the example, a lot of the things for me that were trauma responses may have been natural strength to someone else. But every time that I saw them and they would act a certain way and they would move a certain way and they wouldn't change or they wouldn't move from it, me not understanding that that's a natural part of their character, whether it's a trauma response or not, doesn't matter. The simple factor that I'm reacting to it is something that I needed. That's my manifestation. I'm manifesting this aspect of this detriment. I'm manifesting this detriment because that detriment is necessary. A lot of times you sitting inside of a space and you're wondering why Every time you make a phone call, text message, and you calling people, they're having this irrational response. They're matching your irrational response. In your mind, you're thinking that, like, I'll use an example. If I were to call a friend, right? If I were to call a friend and I didn't realize what I was always, me saying, I need motherfuckers to support me and to be there for me and all of this aspect. And I'm saying this from a space of lack. Therefore, it's automatically irrational. I need people to support me even though I have nothing built. They can trust me off of my face card. They know me. These are all irrational aspects because they only know of me based on the trauma. They only know of me based on the experiences that we share that were 9 times out of 10 going to be trauma bonds. They only knew me based on that. So me asking somebody for support in that space, and my first thing is I usually don't ask people, and as a reason, what's the reason why I don't ask people? Out of fear they're going to say no, out of fear of rejection, until I rationalize the actual trauma. Until I bring that to the surface and not just rationalize it by trying to rationalize the identity that I'm trying to use. Because everybody ain't down for everybody. Instead of me using that all the time, I really have to be honest with myself and be like, is it that I'm trying to have them support me, or am I trying to have them recognize me? Do I want to be recognized? Are they really supporting my growth, or do I want them to recognize me? I just want to be recognized. I want to be recognized. Exactly. That goes right into the next point. It's like, I'm afraid that, let me ask you a question. If everybody in your space, if you could accept everything that comes into your space, whatever everybody says, I know they lying. Okay, cool. That's nice. The difference between a lie and the truth is they're the same fucking thing. Somebody's lie is within their spectrum of truth. Therefore, it's only a lie if it's outside of my spectrum of truth. What's in their spectrum of truth for themselves may be outside of my spectrum of truth. May be outside of my spectrum of truth. You get what I'm saying? May be outside of my spectrum of truth. If that's what all they're showing me is their comfort zone. They're comfortable inside that space. And all I'm going to show to them when I take accountability for only thing I can take accountability for is my energy in that space. So instead of me saying, well, I've done everything to try to make them tell me the truth and all of these things, you've done everything but leave. You've done everything but leave the space. But you don't understand leaving this. Okay. But if you've done everything, that means you haven't done everything. So now when you get to the basis, you see how it corresponds. You telling yourself that you're doing everything and you've done everything in that simple put in plain, and they're still lying to you, is letting you know that you're still lying to yourself. Something that simple. So the lie that you keep telling yourself, permitted within the comfortability of your truth, is why you keep attracting the resources that are showing you, maybe instead of you running up to the window like a little kid to the screen door, your inner child running up to the door, your inner adolescent running up to the door, your identity running up to the door, maybe I need to sit back and be like, maybe I am lying to myself. It's like every time you set up these questions, what resource are you using? If my resource is always my identity, but I haven't done any work I'm not doing the real internal work, that healing aspect, then every time I'm going to go into a space, since I'm used to putting myself up against the wall, I'm used to putting my back up against the wall, I'm used to putting myself there. Ain't no one putting me up against the wall but me. Ain't no one stopping me but me. I'm going to repeat that all through this. today. I'm the one putting myself up against the wall. Because when I use the example, when I sat here today over the end of last week to this week, and I was like, the website's finished. As you look up in the, you look in the comments, you look above this, both websites are done. I reopened the store. I got new prints in there. Check out my reels, cause I got some new prints I got new prints coming soon. We about to have underwear and all types of stuff. And I got the website fully revamped, simple, one page. I'm gonna add pages to it, but it's simplistic. It's simple. Just, you got a question, type it in the message board. When I get it, boom, boom, boom. But that's what I was already doing. See, now I'm looking at the aspects of I'm using the resource. The resource is, okay, the information. Why is this information not implementing itself? Why can't I use this information? Why do I always seem stuck? What information is coming to you? How is it coming to you? So when we're looking into that space, when we're really looking into this becoming aspect, it's the accountability of the energy that we're using. It's the accountability of the energy that I'm using. If I'm in a state, use for an example, when I was in a state of escape all the damn time, everything came to me under the disguise of taking me away from somewhere. Because I was stuck in escape. So everything that my eyes attuned to and created in the space was a reason to escape. Like last week when I was talking about the reasons to escape, then in order for me to escape, I got to create reasons to escape. In order for me to protect somebody, in order for me to provide provisions of protection, I gotta create a space that needs to be protected from. In order for me to get this money, I got to keep creating spaces that are based on me needing money rather than me, what am I doing this for? Sitting with myself, I'm trying to do this because I remember when I was little, I didn't have this and we didn't have this. And because now I'm looking at that environment, now I'm looking at the spaces that have been created. And I realize that when I go into certain spaces, stuck on hypervigilance. When I'm going into certain spaces, it's a different thought process. Like now I'm looking at, until I accepted certain points with myself. You dig what I'm saying? Till I accepted them certain aspects with myself, it would keep playing out and I would keep seeing it. I would keep reacting to it. Therefore, I would stay distracted. Therefore, I would spend so much energy. I would spend so much energy now that it's still unconscious. It's still unconscious in my direction that I need. The way that I define working, using my energy, being useful was to burn myself out and then do my shit last. Burn myself out, then do what I need to do last. So I was the resource or the liability in everybody else's asset. Because staying as that asset for everybody else made me of detriment. It gave value to my identity. It gave value to everything that I did. I would seek for it. I would smell for it, seek for it. I need everybody running around. I need everybody to need me. I need everybody in a position to need me. One of the deepest things I had to understand about the healing complex is not just the aspects of forgiving yourself. It's not just the aspects of forgiving yourself. And that's not what's going to kill you. It's when you realize that when you start forgiving yourself and you start looking at people that were in your life, even the people that aren't in your life anymore, and you got to apologize because you did that shit in reaction. You did it in reaction. So based on something that happened back here in 2003, now I got to apologize to everybody. It's not about them accepting it. Just like it's not about them accepting the apology or forgiving you. It's not about you forgiving them. Because that's how you bring it into balance. It's not about them forgiving you. It's not about them accepting your apology. You're not doing it for them. See, in the lower aspect of that, that's why when you'll sit there and somebody apologize to you and you won't believe them and you triggered because they say, whether they say I'm sorry, whether they say they apologize, whether they understand the etymology of it, that don't matter. Why are you triggered by them apologizing to you? Because 90 times out of 10, someone can apologize to you. You've done too much. You already did the damage. Okay. But I'm apologizing for it. And I'm sincere. Let's say I'm sincerely apologizing for what I've done. If you can't accept my apology or we can't move forward from this apology, then that would mean, why are we still here? See, then we got to be honest. Why am I still there? If we can't go past this point, I mean, we can work on it. There's nothing to work on. Because if I apologize in this space, you apologize or I apologize for what happened. It's not what I did in that current state that has you messed up. It isn't my apology that you want. You will not accept any apology before you apologize to yourself. You will use judgment on every apology because you haven't apologized to yourself. You will use judgment on you being a good person. Being a good person. Because you have not apologized to yourself. I'd rather be in a state with myself where I'm like, you know what? I am a very impartial and unbiased individual. Very unbiased, God-like creature, God-titan being. I play in the shadows as part of my life. So I have to be very discerning. I'm not a good person. I'm a very discerning person. I use a lot of discernment, but I'm not a good person. And me stating that manifest. Me say, whether I say that I'm a good person or I'm not a good person or I'm a bad person, I'm not a bad person. You got to think about, you're going to manifest the aspects that keep you within inside of that loop. I'm still a good person. Somebody come punch you in the side of your damn, whether you watch the whole video about somebody getting in a fight, there's so many bad people in the world, or somebody rock you upside your head. I don't know why they hurt me. I'm a good person. Why are you clinging to that identity? Your mother was a good person. Your dad was a good person. My dad wasn't a good person. Yeah, he was. My mom was your mom was a good person. Your stepdaddy was a good person. Your grand was a good person. They were good people. No, they weren't. Why? Because they hurt me. That didn't make them any less good. According to your definition, that don't make them any less good. See, that this goes into the acceptance of that apology. You can't accept others because you haven't done the apology to yourself. If I haven't apologized to me, that's why they keep coming to you every damn time. Everybody's coming to you, and you're used to the feeding. You're used to being the feeding trough. You're unconscious of understanding how people keep coming into your space and people come into your life. Everybody's coming into my life because I'm a good person. Yes, you are a good person. Yes, congratulations. And they're going to keep doing you dirty. And every time you get to that point where you sit there and say to yourself, they would hate it if I did it to them. They would hate it if I did what I really needed to do. What do you really need to do? See, that's the accountability. That accountability is really looking at what I really, truly need to be doing inside of that space. That's sitting in that space and really looking like, What do I really need to do inside of this space? What do I really need to be doing? You only got 4 teachers. Exactly. You literally are creating the situation. Exactly. You're literally create the situations to prove that you're a good person. But until you get to the root of it's not about you being good or bad, it's not about you being good or bad, right or wrong, winning or losing. You keep trying to pick sides. It's about why do you feel the need to excessively do it? Remember, anything done in excess usually is to hide something or to keep something casted in a shadow. Anything that I do on an excessive nature that I'm excessive about is usually because I'm trying to hide something or keep something my obsessive nature is to keep something casted away inside of a shadow. That's why I really sat there with myself. I'm like, why am I trying to go? There's things that, like, right now, use the example. If you go through your memories right now on Facebook, you go through your memories, there's things that you probably seen on your timeline this year that you said you didn't made a post of it 2-3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, 6, 7, how many years ago? And you done wrote something above it. And you didn't wrote something above it, and it was like the best post ever. You were like, yeah, I did that. And then all of a sudden you somebody come across your timeline and they put a post up of a picture of something that you posted, a meme, video, whatever it is. And you're like, man, I was talking about that 5 years ago. But this person got all these damn likes. That's your truth came out. Man, they got all this attention on their post. You gonna say everything but take accountability. You gonna do everything but take accountability. You can say, oh my God, I was shadow banned that day. They're suppressing my post. They're doing all of these things. But in reality, that shouldn't matter to you. That should not matter to you. If you're doing it based on if you're doing it based on, I want to drop knowledge, I want to teach, you're going to have to understand. You saw your teacher every single day in school not get appreciated. Until you have created that space until you have created that aspect for yourself to where you can sit, you haven't built it up yet. I keep that's what we talked about, aspects of them systems. Like literally when it comes to God Alchemist, the God Alchemist imprint, LLC imprint itself, it's pretty much, I can do videos. I'm doing classes now. I'm doing classes, videos of this nature, posting, marketing, taking in sessions and things of that nature. Everything's pretty much in play. All I gotta do is this. I don't find myself having to be obsessive over it anymore. It's exactly where it needs to, I've accepted that it's exactly where it needs to be. I don't have to push it anymore. So naturally inside of that space, I keep dipping in and out of my shadow. Naturally inside of that space, now if you looked at my reels, look at my story, I just reopened the store a couple of weeks ago. I just reopened the store. I just finished doing put some new prints out, doing new stuff on that nature. Now I can focus on that. But I had to get to a point I had to go back to the point of my first time meditating. Every time that I didn't want to meditate, it was because I was scared if I sat down, the space wouldn't clean. So the space isn't clean, so I can't meditate. And I can't meditate because the space ain't clean. So I'm overwhelmed either way. Instead of me taking account, let me clean the fucking space. Let me do the work. So now the lesson that I learned, I don't need $300 some odd dollars. I don't need to spend $100 some odd dollars on a website that's one page. I'm not using it for that point yet. Website page I got right now, $144 a year, nice little one page, and I can just keep adding to it. All payments go through it and everything, going through my Square Pay link. Perfect, it's there. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. Now I'm working on a Core Alchemy. Now I'm on that site. Now I'm tuning that site. Now I'm in that space because these are my resources. Because before that point, I talked about this, I think we did it the week before last. I was talking about to myself, I was like, you know what? I finally got into the audiobook Think and Grow Rich. Finally got into it. As I'm sitting there reading it and looking over, I'm like, nigga, I've done most of this shit. So now I was tuning things. I was like, nigga, I've already done this part of this. Okay, cool. That's why this kept coming into my space. That's why it's here. Because now I'm in that space of confirmation with myself. So when I put together my new prompt, my new program, my new manifestation, set my new intentions, set my new affirmations, everything that's come up has been based on getting to that point, learning from that lesson. I'm doing that work. Everything I'm doing is based on doing that work. When you're naturally doing it, when you're naturally coming to that space and that shit hurts and that it starts making you think about yourself and feel some type of way and bust you upside your head and got you all, oh my God, my life is happening a way I don't like the way it's happening. That's necessary. Because as I've talked about with meditate, I'm always in a meditative state. I'm always aware. I'm always open. I'm in that state of vulnerability with myself. I'm in that state of boundary with myself. If not, I can't use my gifts. If not, I can't use my gifts. The only way that I could be willingly use my gifts or my gifts can be willingly used would be going through the space of using one of my identities to use it to create a glamour to use that aspect of my gift. Using my ability to, I'm in your energy, read your mind, I can hear what you're saying. See, I would have to use that identity to maintain that. But I'm not in that space anymore. I'm no longer inside of that space with myself. I'm no longer inside of that space. As you're shifting through that, this is the aspect of, I must do this work. I can't keep intellectualizing everything. I can't keep saying every damn day that, hey, I got this information and I got this and I'm doing this now and I'm doing this and when I know I should be doing something else. I already know that, I should have been sitting like yesterday, for example, I woke up and I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to work on this. Sat down and I was working on a Core Alchemy all day. Instead of me being upset at what the result of what I was doing, it was letting me know what was necessary for me, what was necessary for me to do next inside of my space. It was letting me know what was necessary for my works inside of my space for next. It was letting me know what was next. Rather than me sitting inside of that space being like, man, I should... Everything's coming up exactly as it needs to come up. Everything's coming up exactly as it needs to be handled. This goes into the aspect, you are not going to get what you're not ready to take care of. But what happens with us a lot of times is we get really, really emotional, or we stay inside of that human perspective with ourselves of, but I don't, if I do that, then what does it matter? What happens when you start doing your work? You need the new lessons to teach you discernment. You're going to need people to start hitting you upside the head. And the people that once used to defend you based on that identity, they gonna need to start becoming offensive. They need to start becoming offensive to you. They need to start offending you. They need to start offending you and really challenging, because what they're challenging is the basis of a lot of your old traditions, the basis of a lot of your old standards, the basis of a lot of the things that you used to cling to that are no longer serving you any purpose. They're not serving you any purpose. What you get stuck in, but it's still, but it's like you're feeling like it's still serving you purpose, but it's not. What you're doing is you're staying in a state of nostalgia. It's like, you can go right now to you can go to your friend house, mother house, grandmother house, auntie house, whatever it is. And there's still certain things inside of their space that haven't changed, won't change. Instead of you sitting there really I'm trying to bring them up to speed, you're not really realizing that the energy of nostalgia that you're feeling inside of that space, that's your living fucking altar. We always want to talk about, you're looking at the altar of that space. You're literally looking at the altar. You're literally going into a space that is stuck in a certain cadence, in a certain rhythm. The reason that you keep trying to change it is because it would represent, if it changes, then it represents what I'm doing is okay. It validates you. Remember, we've been going into the aspects of, I shouldn't have to go into a space anymore, and by invalidating them, it validates me. Because it takes away all the information that's available in that space. One simple fact for me. Every Thursday, for example, that's marketing and promoting day. That's marketing and promotion. That means everything on my business page, I'm going to be boosting. And it'll play out for a week, might play out for 2 weeks, might play out for a month. But that's my marketing. I have a marketing budget. That's the resource. Learning how to use my resources to expand past. Instead of the old narrative for ourselves, we're stuck in that old narrative. The old narrative is you have the kid's the resource. You get the job's the resource. You get this, you get the job, you get the house, you get this, and this. Those are my resources. Those are expendable. Those are provisions of a resource. They're provisions. There are going to be obstacles because once they go away, what are you going to do next? This is basically being trained based on the trauma narrative. Once they're gone, what's next? What am I going to do? Except for have to sit there and realize that I haven't been doing what I said I needed to be doing this entire time. That's when it gets heavy. That's that heavy part that hit a lot of people upside the head. Especially you go into session with me, like that's the heavy part. You're realizing that space that you were in is no longer serving a purpose. You're trying to stay there too long. It's time to come up out of that hole. It's time to come up out of that space. It's time to, I keep Twitter fingering it. I couldn't keep Twitter fingering. I couldn't keep myself in a certain space. I had to step up outside of that and really look at myself in that space. Like, yeah, well, I was doing this and I was da-da-da-da. But then when I noticed, now I look at myself as like, the way that I came into this, the identity, one of the last aspects of the identity I came into this with, the last residuals of an identity, it's been shed. And I'm noticing it more and more because the conversations that I'm having are different. This is when I can start noticing the differences in the processes. Conversations are different. I've never been one that was, I would never be one to say something if somebody said something to me in the inbox on some narrative that they spent like 19 hours not saying anything. Everything that I'm saying is more direct because I'm in a more direct space with myself. If I'm not direct, then my space can't be direct. If I'm not in the aspect of confirming myself, then I can't. My space is not going to be based on confirmation. Most of the people that come into my inbox now, they're always coming. I can literally let the message sit there for a couple of days because they're all they're doing is coming into my space. My space is naturally confirmation. My inbox is naturally, whether they're coming into my inbox based on their trauma led them there, their fear led them there, and they don't want to sound stupid or they don't want to sound dumb or anything. However they get led there is how they get led there. And I'm like, bet that shit works. However they get led to my space is how they get led to the space. And when they leave from the space, they're not going to leave the same. Ultimately. Even if they leave my space, let's use an example. I had someone come in our inbox the other day talking about, and it was after there's no such thing as alphas. Alpha women and alpha men, that's some third level shit. That's literally some 3D shit. Being an alpha anything is on some 3D shit. Literally on some 3D shit. Because above that's beta, that's the fourth, and you feel me? Like, anything of an alpha is on some 3-dimensional shit. You still trying to hold shit down in the physical world. I will digress. But someone came into my inbox talking about teaching, we need to raise the beta males to the alpha state, and they got to take this, and they got to do this, and they got to do this. I just looked at the message, and I was like, it's 7:30 in the morning. Why is this message in all caps? What did I just meditate about? What did I just come out of my state of meditation with? I'm grateful that I'm inside of this state, and anything that is immediately not supposed to serve my purpose, show up first. Made that command. That's the first thing that I saw in my inbox. First thing, I'm like, oh, damn. I guess that's the next lesson on the plan. Niggas doing that now. Okay, cool. I'm in the right space. This is how you start cultivating moving forward. But as I always go into that space, you got to start doing that internal. You got to understand those inner workings. If you're not doing those inner workings to your aspects of yourself, you're always going to be, I need this and I want. You can do everything that you want inside of a space. You can't make them leave. You can't make them go. You can't make them come. You can't make them stay any longer. Can't make them do whatever. And what you trying to do based on that is really showing you where you really are at in that mental space, that emotional space. You feel me? That identity that you're still clinging to. Like, what would I be if I was no longer the employee of the month, the back of house team member of the month, the manager of the month, or all of these things? What would I be without any of these aspects? What would I be without any of these identities? I'm even stronger. I'm now in the same space, the same way I used to use that energy, my energy into directing that current is the same way I'm doing it now. I'm literally manifesting in real time resources in order to expend upon. The resource is naturally limitless. Therefore, everything that I bring in with that resource is limitless. Why would I bring in a limited resource? Let's use another example. If everything, and this is the aspect of trauma, everything in your personal life is meant to keep you in a state of detriment. Everything personal, heavy quotes, everything personal is meant to keep you in a state of detriment. Everything that you keep taking personal, everything that you keep trying to make personal, it keeps you in a state of detriment. Everything. I want you to think about that. Because as we start understanding that all of this, the United States is a corporation. Okay. The world's a big ass corporation. Okay. You ain't stepped into the corporate shoes yet. You haven't incorporated yourself. Incorporate this means to bring everything together. You haven't the reason that you're so against something is because you haven't incorporated yourself yet. You still want to use everything in fragments and bits and pieces. You haven't incorporated yourself. Because until you incorporate yourself, you will understand it in between why you triggered by the same buzzword, the same buzz phrase when they'll sit there and tell you, kill 1 million, save 7 billion. If we kill 1 million people over here, and then 7 billion people over here will live. Good debt, bad debt. Good debt, bad debt is business. Think about it. Good debt, bad debt is business. There's such thing in your personal world, in your personal, taking everything personal, emotional debt. This is how we look at emotional debt. Taking everything personal every single fucking day. You mad because somebody said no to you 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, however many times you mad that somebody says some shit to you. But in reality, as we change this, because I'm tired of the light dipping off like that. All right, we go like this. Oh, let me do this. All right, cool. Let's make that like that. Every time you looking in that space, here goes the reality to it. You're still taking it all personal because you still got emotional debt on the table. You have not yet learned how to assess and deal with your debts. You keep creating debt, not understanding that your creation of your negative debt helps them create their positive debt. So somebody being a bad person and doing bad things to you, it just adds to their debt. It's not good or bad. It just adds to their usage of debt. How much how much credit they actually have. So by you trying to remain a good person, it keeps the credit rolling. It keeps everything in a cycle. It just keeps revolving. You ain't getting paid for saying you a good person. You ain't getting nothing off of that. Other than, yeah, I'm proving I'm a good person. But until you incorporate, this is when you got motherfuckers talking about, it's a battle against light and dark. And the shadow niggas is winning because they got some deep ass hearts. And the shadow niggas is winning because they got some deep ass hearts. I got my light's getting real bright. Because we sitting directly inside of them. That's why it's doing that. It makes sense now. But I'm sitting inside of that space with myself. I'm like, oh my God, my life was supposed to be like this a couple of years ago. And I should have did this. Okay, that's nice. You should have did that a couple of years ago. Why didn't you? You could have did that a couple of years ago, but why didn't you? Because you were scared of the debt. You were scared of that. You were scared of acquiring that amount of debt. You were scared of acquiring that because you don't understand it. Use an example. You can go to dinner right now. Let's say you go to dinner right now and you want to go get dressed up and you want to get all nice and shit. After this, I'm going to knock out some readers. You want to go, you go into dinner, you going to entertain yourself, entertain your lady, entertain your friends and celebrate. You got to go blow a bag that you just got from your stimulus checks and all the other good shit. Meanwhile, in the corner, all you're looking at inside of the space, because you wanted to go out and you want to be a part of a certain life, you're looking around and the only thing that you see is this nigga done took his girl out, this woman taking her dude out, everybody out there on dates. But behind you, since you ain't paying attention to what's behind you, there is an entire table of upper level executives. And one nigga is paying the whole bill. And you can't pay attention. You look back like, see, that's the type of life that I want to get to. You don't understand what the fuck that was. You're not at that point yet. You're not at the point of understanding that if I'm going to spend money, I need to get some type of kickback from it. If I'm going to use my energy inside of this space, it has to be of a fucking benefit. It's not good or bad anymore. Because I'm being used. I feel like I'm being used because guess what? I'm using them. So until I accept that they're only providing me feedback to what I'm doing with myself. It's a business write-off. Until I can accept it for what it is, guess what happens with me? It's always going to be this narrative. All right, cool. It's always going to be this narrative of me trying to write something off for myself. Now I'm trying to write everything off and trying to make everything happen a certain way because I'm not comfortable with myself inside of that space. I'm not ready to move inside of that space yet. I'm telling myself I'm not ready for that identity. I'm telling myself that I'm not ready for that. So naturally, when every time it manifests into my space, hey, you should come out to eat with us. What I'm gonna be worried about, man, I ain't got no money to go out there. I ain't got no money to go to I don't have the money to go sit at that table. I ain't got the money to go keep up with them. Who said you had to spend any money? And even if you don't have the money for that, it's not about having the money. It's not about you wanting to acquire the debt. It's about you being honest about yourself inside of that space. That's that lesson in vulnerability that you get. But you looking for your lesson in vulnerability to come from that relationship with you. You're looking for your lesson in vulnerability to come from your girlfriend or from your guy or for whoever the fuck whoever you chilling with. You're waiting for your lesson in vulnerability to come from my mother needs to learn vulnerability. My pops need to learn this. These people need to learn this, this, and this. You waiting for it to come from there, but it came from there. You being honest about yourself. Man, they gonna laugh at me if I tell them I ain't got no bread. How? The only way that they're going to click on that mindset or click inside of that space is if that's how you built it, that's how you manifested it. See, this is where that honesty comes from. You went there and I did the shit multiple fucking times. I've done that shit multiple fucking times. Misusing my energy, misappropriating funds, embezzling from myself. I was embezzling my own energy. My identity was the embezzler of the fucking decade. All because my mindset was stuck. And I'm trying to be like the big dogs. I'm trying to be like, but I'm not reading what they're reading. I'm not studying what they're studying. I'm not doing any of these things. And when I am studying it, I'm looking at it as a way out. So the information I'm pulling in, I'm immediately trying to apply to my life. But it's all based on that glamour. I'm trying to apply it to my life. So I'm not really letting it sink in. So all I'm doing is intellectualizing it. So then I'm sitting there inside that space, still manifesting the same detriments. You only can live in two spaces. You either live as the ego or you live as the spirit. You either live as the ego or you live as the spirit. Whenever you meet up, when you come to certain people and you can tell when they're living inside of they're usually have it, their transparency, they have a lack of transparency. They're still trying to, they're still trying to live inside of the ego. They're still trying to live within one of their identities. They're still trying to live within that light. What I have, the fuck? That's when you always have the back. I ain't got nothing to live for. And then people, you just keep repeating those same detriments with yourself. You trying to take the fuck off. Let me go this way. Let me go this way. Let me go this way. Let me take the fuck off. Let me dip out. It got too heavy again. It got too bad again. It got too heavy again. Let me step the fuck back. What am I not learning about stepping? Why? Every time that I start to step back, not say anything, instead of me stepping back all the time, maybe it's time for me to step forward. Maybe it's time for me to step forward. If I'm always stepping up to a plate, maybe it's time for me to actually take a step back. Everything goes in opposition. Maybe instead of my ass going left all the time, maybe I need to start going right a little bit. Maybe I dipped off way into the left-handed path too damn much and became just like the right-handed path. Because if you understand anything about the left and the right-handed path, the right-handed path does not take from the left hand, but the left hand can take from the right hand. Willingly, that's what you see everything as now. That's like if you really still sitting there, like as an example, and beefing against the Bible, where are you at? You're still in 1996, 97, 98. You still back there in those ages. You still back there in that. You're still back there in the old ages. You're still literally back there in the 70s. If you're still sitting here battling about equal rights and race, it's okay. But you're still back in the civil rights age. You haven't exalted any of that. It's not about we got to eradicate racism. You need to exalt racism for what the fuck it is. It is an ism. Putting your race first. Putting yourself first. Raising yourself and keeping yourself out of detriment. So until I exalt that into my space and personally sit with it, I can't use it. It'll always use me. Every time that I'm doing something and I need an excuse to get scared, hey, ego, what's up? Here comes my ego with a big ass card, but like, I'm on the phone and my ego's like, here, take this paper. Like a little kid, like if one of my nieces or nephews, when they were super little and they were hungry, and they wanted me to open something up and I would get upset with it instead of me learning, all right, cool, I'm on the phone, pop the bag. First it was learning how to open the bag without making the noise. That was the first key. The sitting in that space and being able to move in that space. The second key was learning how to set up that space. So the second key was like, if I was watching my nieces and nephews and I knew I was watching them, make sure I had all the snacks lined up the way I needed them. Make sure I had the TV programmed the way I needed to be programmed to, so I can do exactly what I need to do. That way, as new things come into this space, I'm able to actively, not passively, I'm able to actively stay engaged. I'm actively engaged in that space. I'm not trying to do it from a state of being passive, which means I can act now when I see things, that shit's happening in real fucking time. I can go grab a glass of water, sprinkle cinnamon over the top, and I can watch the cinnamon suspend itself in water. That isn't for somebody to be like, oh my God, come look what I can do. That's for me to understand where I'm at with myself. As I naturally accept this aspect of myself, now I can manifest from that. I'm already in that space. I'm already manifesting from that space. I had to be honest with a lot of things with myself. Like, could I really handle that many followers? Could I really handle that much business? Could I really handle this? Can I really do this? I'm saying I want this, this, and this, but can I really? Of course I can egotistically say I can do it. Hell yeah, I can do it. But can I really do it? And not from a space of my old self popping up, an old aspect of myself coming up like, yeah, just burn yourself out, and acknowledging, yeah, we're not burning ourselves out anymore. Can I acknowledge that conversation? Yo, we ain't burning ourselves out anymore. If I don't feel like doing this today, I do not feel like doing this today. That doesn't mean, since I don't feel like doing this today, I'm going to do double tomorrow, or I'm going to do double before this. It means I do not feel like doing this today. but I'm not gonna be in the state of not doing anything today. Today would be, let's use an example. Instead of, if I didn't feel like doing anything today, I guarantee naturally my mind and my ego doesn't go towards distraction anymore. It still might slip in a little bit with certain things, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be listening to an audiobook. I'm going to be reading something. If I turn on the television and watch something on TV, it's automatically going to direct me to something. It's automatically going to direct me to my psychoanalysis, my psycho-analyzing mind is naturally going to keep me engaged because I'm actively engaged in the space. I'm not passively engaged in the space, meaning I'm reacting to things as they come up. I'm in the space responding. Since I'm always in that state of response, my boundaries are naturally in response. My boundaries will naturally respond. My boundaries naturally move. My boundaries are naturally defend me. My boundaries are naturally stronger in that space. When you're going into a lot of these spaces on a passive narrative, when you're going passively into the space, your boundaries become passive. So in the human narrative, that same conversation you're having, well, that's my friend. I known them for a lot of years. That's my family. That's my wife. That's my husband. That's my ex. That's whatever it is. And you keep bringing these things into your space is because you're passively directing yourself. You're not embracing the new aspects of yourself. I got a client right now that's going through that process with herself of she's actively embracing herself. She was so used to embracing herself as she was and seeing herself as she was. And so she acted as she was. It's kind of like if you go to the gym and you lose a bunch of weight, you still think you're a fat person. If you sit here and you've been making the money, you've been actually creating the resources and creating that new space, but you're still looking at yourself as the motherfucker that was waking up every day to go to work, you're going to look at everything through those eyes. So you're going to passively accept what you're doing. You're going to passively. So your gratefulness is going to be conditional. Your gratitude is going to be conditional. So your energy is now in that passive state with yourself. You're always going to be in a state of conditions. This has to be right. It has to not be raining. It can't be raining. Damn, I'm mad because the sun's out, so I can't do my ritual. It's Venus. You go ask dumb questions. You go ask questions to yourself you won't be able to answer the question to yourself. Do you realize that Earth is not in your natal chart? Do you realize that Earth is not inside of your natal chart? Because Earth is you. Have you sat there with that long enough to be like, damn, nigga, I'm Earth. I'm Kether. Everything that I'm looking at is an aspect of feedback to me. Everything. I'm Kether. I'm Earth in whatever, whether I'm using the topical or the Vedic chart. It's me. I'm Earth. So me keep saying Earth ghetto. What the heck would that mean? That means I'm ghetto. That means I'm impoverished somewhere. So instead of me trying to escape myself, I need to be getting into myself. Yeah, I wanted to wait and sprinkle that in there. I wanted to sprinkle that dab of that weed. I wanted to sprinkle that moon rock in there a little bit. You're Earth. So every time that you sit here and talk about it's the United States, it's a corporation, you're not incorporated yet. That's why you buck against the system. That's why everybody was bucking against the system, because you weren't incorporating yourself. That's why everybody was like, we got to come together as a community, because everything was externalized. Remember, you just got out of a space of trauma. You were trying to gather everything back together. Everything's been leading you to this point of now it's time for me to do my work. Now it's time for me to tap in and really start doing my work. It's okay. Everybody's just said, I remember I've said it a couple, like, yeah, I hate this shit. Yeah, I hate being, but I wasn't understanding, like, oh, I'm sitting here trying to buck against everything, trying to kick everything off, even to the aspects. This is why I say shadow work is the work. Your spiritual warfare is shadow work. It is the work. Why are you still trying to buck against something outside of yourself? Yes, it's cool that you're preparing for things. But if you're not preparing things based on the intentions that you're setting into that space, if you're not setting, like use an example, me learning me really getting back into gardening takes me back to my memories. For me personally, it gotta be personal. You're sitting in the personal intentions. Was sitting there with my pops, literally, when we had the garden in the backyard. That was back there. I remember it was a whole garden back there. I remember sitting there, okay, we're doing the garden. My pop's intentions, because I remember like in the back, then we had like, he was bringing like old lawnmowers home and we were working on lawnmowers together. My pops was literally trying to create over and over and over and over again a different family business. Since my pops came down and met my mother and they came into the human world together, that's what he was always trying to do. But due to him not dealing with his shadows, they're not dealing with their internal work and doing healing, that was the result. So when I go back to the moments using discernment, not trying to be a good person, not trying to be a bad person, using discernment, I can see it. I can see what was there. I can see it for what it was. I can understand, okay, this was that was that, this was this was that. Okay, now I can see what it is. Instead of me sitting there trying to deny it, walk away from it, trying to escape it, I can fully embrace it. Because I'm shifting that space with myself. That way I can go up. See how everything on me is up. I got one arrow going down and I got one arrow going up. So I'm in that natural cycle. But you got to do, this is what I mean by doing that work. This is what I mean by sitting down. This is what I mean by really sitting down. There's no more intellectual, there's nothing left to intellectualize. There's nothing left to intellectualize. There's nothing left for you to put in front of your emotions and your feelings. That's all that's always been here. Your same feelings, your same emotions. It's not that you're not afraid of emotion. It's that it's like you're stuck on the feeling. That feels, you have to, like I've talked about this before. You literally are reprogramming hot and cold. You are literally reprogramming hot and cold. You're literally reprogramming hot and cold. You're literally reprogramming good and bad. You're literally reprogramming all of it. It's not just, I'm going to record, I always go into that. It's not recording some things. You're literally re-recording and reprogramming this entire narrative that you've been living by. And everything that was based on that narrative is going to naturally now become opposition to you. Ask yourself the question, would you rather be at war with yourself and at peace with the world? Or would you rather be at peace with yourself and at war with the world? I'd rather be in opposition with the world. I'd rather be in opposition with the world. The external byproduct of my healing. I'd rather that be, it has to come to a state of de-evolution. It has to go into a state of degeneration. What would it look like? It's like if I went to the hood right now, and if I was like, ooh, I walk in the hood right now, it still looked like the hood. It still looked like the hood. It's still dark as fuck over there. It's still very, yeah. And if it triggers me, I'm not going to intellectualize it. Yeah, we got to do this to these buildings, do this to this, I'm not there yet. Because if I can put, this is what I do this for, why don't I just go do that? Why don't I just leave where I'm at and go there? Why don't I just do what's necessary there? Oh, it takes a plan. Oh, yeah, it takes a plan. So apparently I'm not ready to do that yet. So instead of trying to distract myself with a 4 a reason to go do it, a reason to go be. Maybe I need to start doing the work first. That's going to be there. Just like the motherfuckers that are going to be at the club right the freak now. Motherfuckers trying to sell 4X and 5X and 6X and 12. Motherfuckers sitting there trying to sell you crypto and all that. They still going to be there. What am I doing with myself personally? Personally, for myself, I've been watching and going into studying the aspects of opening up a whole school in the metaverse. I've been studying how to open up a whole school in the metaverse, whole buildings in the metaverse. Why? Because, instead of me having to repeat myself 296 million times, why don't I just have the classes in there in the metaverse? Niggas can go in there, same lesson every day. You want to learn that? Go in that same room every day. Go learn the lesson. Now it's available. Now I ain't gotta, because I'm becoming. It's not that you are against this system. You're afraid to become this system. You are this system. The system is of you. The matrix is of you. The dark, everything that you hear somebody say, we got to get out of something. Nigga, I'm trying to go further into it because that's what it's already of me anyway. Why am I not stepping into it? Why am I not leaning into it? Because I have a fear of it, of understanding it. What would I become if I went that far? What would I become if I went that deep? If I really understood it for what it was. We've said that shit for fucking decades now. The only way out is in. What do you think that really means? It sounds good to make it sound nice. It means going inside of yourself. It means going inside of yourself and learning yourself and being for yourself. If the only way out is in, that means I got to stop going out and keep going in. And everything that I do is naturally trying to go into something. What am I not getting? These are the types of things that I've been thinking about. Like, what am I not really thinking about? How am I not really applying this? Why am I sitting here trying to, knowing that all of this, none of this can be created without my divine energy, my divine blessing. And my divine blessings are not based on good or bad, because I'm a God, I'm a king, I'm a god, I'm a goddess. And this is where you got to be honest with yourself. Some of you are not. Some of you are still in your mankind. Some of you are still in your mankind. That means you're still stuck on certain patterns and behaviors because you have not learned the patterns and behaviors. That means you're down here foraging. That means you're down here on some caveman shit and some cavewoman shit, and you still stuck in that space. It's okay. That's what you came down here for. Welcome to the metaverse. Welcome to the metaverse. Some of you are down here on your humanity aspect, trying to save everything, eat everything healthy, and do everything of that nature, make broccoli your god and all that good shit. Congratulations. Welcome to your level in the metaverse. Some of you are in your spiritual or in your conscious community. Some of you are inside of that space. In your consciousness, your ideals, the fundamentals to those events and things, and into those people. Congratulations. Welcome to your level inside of the metaverse. And then some of you are in your state of teaching, counseling, pushing, changing narratives, creating. You're really in that higher state. So a lot of shit ain't even hitting you upside the head. Welcome. What level are you at? All the shit you did before this was elementary school and middle school. Everything before this was pretty much elementary school. That was the historicalizing, learning all the shapes and the numbers. Even the school system was set up that way. Instead of you saying it's the prison pipeline, the system was set up perfectly. You set this shit up perfectly. You sit down your demiurge doppelganger, and he set this shit up for you perfectly. That's why if you're looking, it's not that. Use an example. There's a I forgot the video. I forgot the person, the experiment who did the original experiment. They did an experiment where they had the fleas in a glass and they put the lid on the jar and the fleas were inside of the glass. And they left them inside of the glass. They cracked it. The fleas died. The fleas had babies. They died. They took the larvae out and they put all the larvae out. The larva itself was built and like they still were in that perfect formation of the jar. No lid, nothing. That's why you're looking at certain people not want to do anything else. Is because they don't want to. You've been in the jar for so long, you don't know you're still in the jar. You've been in it so long, you've been outside of yourself for so long, you don't know what the inside looks like. I don't know that, like using that, but I saw somebody look at a post the other day. Somebody made a post, this is an example, something I posted like years ago about the inside of the vaginal walls. And how it has like the little hooks on it, the inside of vaginal walls. Somebody made that post in a group somewhere, and some chick was like, that ain't me. My shit's smooth. Me laughing to myself, I was like, this bitch ain't got no walls. That's all I said. I go scroll through the comments. Nigga said in there, this bitch ain't got no walls. But she was so adamant on that not being her insides. That not being there. So adamant. I'm like, damn, people are really adamant on this aspect of being in the aspect of being this perfected aspect of self, not really looking at it for what it is. That's where you at now. That's where you at with yourself now. You only got two things left to do. Either you're gonna be doing your work, learning the aspects of yourself and sitting there really doing that internal work, or you're gonna keep manifesting the same detriments. Remember, what is detrimental to your higher self is a dream to your lower self, is a dream to your ego. But also in that same space, your middle point knows how to use everything. So you got to understand your higher self. You can't be so stuck in your higher self that you don't understand how to use your middle self. Because your middle self is your exalted ego. When you exalt your ego, when you exalt these characteristics of yourself that we talked about last week, when you exalt those characteristics of yourself, that's when you're sitting in that exalted higher space. You're not sitting there saying, you ain't got to sit there and say every 15 seconds you from the fucking hood. You ain't got to say every day 19 seconds, yo, I'm this. I don't have to say that shit anymore. When I really started sitting like, nigga, there's certain shit that I don't say anymore. I don't have to say that I don't have to sit there and say to myself that, yeah, I'm an Aquarius sun 19 times. Unless I'm teaching about it. That's where you at now. That's where I'm at now. Teach, counsel, provide information from a new aspect, break it down, and going about my business. I'm literally doing what I've always wanted to do. Always. And I'm owning it from the full. I'm doing everything that I has ever desired to do. I don't have to. Therefore, anything that I manifest inside of this space is of that same balance. It's of that same equal aspect. Let me read this one more time. Man, I was high last weekend. I'm reading this as I'm looking, because I got my camera over here. Man, I felt high as hell looking through a microscope, looking at the hood, looking at blood going through the veins. Sort of like quantum level. What the fuck is that? That's you looking at yourself. That's like, in an honest aspect, the way that I can look at that is like, anytime you reach a moment like that, it's a moment of reflection, letting you know what you need to be doing next. Like, use an example. If I sat here, if you sat here and really thought about on some high shit, like also quantum level shit, and I'm saying like, yo, if there was a fly sitting on my lap, I actually did a podcast episode like this. if there was a fly sitting on my laptop, or like a fly looking at me on the laptop, I'm that fly sitting on the laptop looking at myself on the laptop. But at the same time, the camera eye on my laptop is looking at me, looking at the fly, and it only can see me this way. But there's something in my computer recording that and going deeper and deeper and deeper. Being in those extended states of time and not knowing, it's like, we talked about this shit before, like using fucking motherfuckers taking the super dose of fucking shrooms and not doing anything with it, or motherfuckers taking all the damn acid, not doing anything with it. Everything that you're doing, you're not doing anything with it. You're not implementing it into a practical solution of everyday work. You want to keep it the same so you can stay the same. The thing I've said this shit about before, if by now you're not doing your own, like, if you're not in a space right now with yourself, as an example, to where you're creating your own, like, your ritual is your ritual, your work is like based on your work. If you're not in that space with yourself right now, then what have you been doing? These are the questions you gotta ask, like, what have you been doing? You're still looking for something else. It's cool to use it as reference. Like what I just said earlier. Me using Think and Grow Rich is a reference point. Not saying that you can't get any information out of books, that it depends on what level you're at. But most books are reference points now. Most of the information I'm getting from is a reference point. It's in reference to the work that it's on reference to the space that I'm already in. When it's something that I don't understand, it simply means I need to go deep. I need to go study some shit I need to go deeper with inside of myself. I don't have to call myself a king every 19 days, every day, because I now understand my lineage of where royalty reside in my vein. My royalty reside in my DNA, from the Nordic, Irish, from Nordic, Ireland, all the way up to Southeast Asia, all the way up to some parts of Russia, all the way down into India. I know where those aspects are on a quantum level. So I don't have to keep calling myself a king, because I don't have to keep after initiating that sequence. In that space of you being high, in this example, you being high as fuck and seeing everything on a quantum level, you haven't came to terms with it to see it in that practical sense. Remember, we talked about this before in your consultation about when you get high. Crazy, like it's almost been up to a year. Whenever you get high, whenever you get into that state, woo! I have to see Moon Knight. Yeah, like you're literally bouncing in between that's going to be a perfect movie. You're trying to still bounce between the worlds. You're still trying to bounce between, trying to keep something over here. You're trying to keep things over here intact by keeping things over here broken apart. You're literally trying to keep things over here intact by breaking things apart in here. Until you accept that these shits over here in your physical, your personal world gotta be destroyed. They gotta fall apart. They gotta degenerate. You can't fully build yourself online over here. There's no more, and it's harder now. It used to be easier, but there's no more veil. There's no more veil. That's when everybody was talking about when 5G popped off. There's no more veil. It's straight motherfucking pure shit coming through. There are solar flares popping off every other day, every other week. I know before even looking on the news it's solar flares, because every time I touch my phone now, my phone glitches. My phone either goes too fast, slows down. My phone glitches until I breathe, hit reset on my phone, come back to my phone. Because I'm no longer operating in that work. I'm no longer operating here. I'm only projecting in this space. So everything's now different. Now when I come back, it's kind of like when you looking at yourself, shit looks faster because you looking at yourself. You can see it from the outside looking in. Instead of looking from the in, I already went through the inside out so far that now you're just going to repeat it. Every time, because you got to remember, you're going through layers. Mm-hmm. You right. That's part of the flow. 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 You have to remember everything that you've done, you've built an identity for, you built a catalyst to keep yourself inside of that space. So every time you're met with a challenge, it's forcing you to go deeper within yourself. Of that, it's forcing you to shed an identity and go deeper inside of yourself. Motherfuckers keep getting stuck along the way because like, ooh, this is where I like being at. It's cool. You might like being there. But remember, you've done that shit before. You've stayed in that space and did that shit before. You came down. You came down. You like being a woman. You like being in your feminine energy at a point in time and you got stuck. You locked yourself into that. You locked yourself into that energetic field. So then you came back down here in your masculine aspect of yourself, and now you bucking against everything in your feminine aspect. But you came down here to understand that this time. That's what you came down here for. So as long as you opposition with your own feminine energy inside it, now you got stuck as that. Now everything feeds you leave, you come back, you the devil monkeying to and fro. Every time you come down here, you make an impact. You make something imprinted down here. What do you think happens when you leave? You think the shit stays? It's like looking at your kid. It's like looking at your kids. And if your kids are too quiet, you immediately go run back in the room. Y'all too quiet. Or you go see y'all too quiet. That's what you're doing. That's literally what you keep doing. Instead of you doing your works, doing your internal work, doing your healing, every time the white man hop on the fucking TV screen, those are the kids that were too quiet in the room. You want them to be loud. That way you have an excuse not to do what you need to do. So this is the grander scheme of how you keep manifesting detriment. You want them to be too fucking loud. You want them to do things because it's going to hit you and you'll be like, yep, that's why I can't do what I need to do. That's why I can't do the work that I need to do. That's why I can't do what I need to do because they're not doing what they need to do. And then the honesty to it is, why don't you just leave? Because then you'll go through this whole tangent of everything that you've done for the country, everything you've done, but you won't say the real reason. It's not that you're afraid to lose control. You're afraid to take that accountability. It's not that you're afraid to lose what little you have. It's the fact that you're afraid to take the true accountability. You can't leave. It's not because you've done so much. It's because you must accept that you literally, in creating the space that needed protecting, you had to equally create the things that needed to be protected from it. And you've been living in that the entire time. Now it's time, that's the accountability. Because once you really start looking at that, you're like, oh shit. Damn. And then this becomes the ease. I don't have to accept what others are doing, but I know I got to accept my part. That's when we get into that space right here. It's the end of a cycle. Doing a collective. If you want a more personal reading, the link is up here. I'm going to put the link in the description again. Put the link down here again. Oh, shit. Go. Okay, there it is. Put the link in there again. Boom. That's the link for the readings. Oh, shit. Yep. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh. Oh, it is. Oh, shit. Oh. Shit fire. Oh, shit. You're the biggest part of me. Shit fire. There it goes. Cool. Shit fire. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, you got to understand with yourself. But yeah, private readings. Go ahead, hit me up in that. You hit me up in the inbox. Hit the bang on the site. Hit the inbox. We can set that up. We got a couple of availabilities throughout the week. We can set that up most definitely. But the space that you're in right now, this is the aspects of that change, the necessary changes. You looking at yourself, you came to that mental point. You keep coming to this point. You keep saying, ooh, the light, but you ain't looking at what's happening down here with yourself. Oh, yeah. Shit fire. Like, you know how many times I didn't have Confederate people? Like, I didn't have the Confederacy in my head the entire time. And I'm like, why the hell these crackers, why are they coming to me now? I'm like, oh. Because for a long time, this is like early on when I really started channeling. I remember for a long time I used to have crackers. Like, I was like, why are they coming to me? And why are they saying what they're saying to me? And I'm like, This is before I was still in the generic aspect of all of us were slaves. Yes, some of my family was slaves, but some of my family was not. Some of my family were not slaves. Some of my family were Stevens. Some of my family were Django's. Some of my family were field hands. You got to be real honest about your aspect. Some of my family were fucking Django's. What Django was acting out to be. I had to be honest, like, whoo. So when I'm having a conversation with the crack ass cracker, not really paying, I'm like, oh, damn, that's why they coming through. That's why I'm having a conversation with this motherfucker. That's why he's telling me things about my uncle that I don't want to believe or relatives I don't want to believe. You were a kid, like, and I'm like, no, I wasn't, nigga. I was always. You got to start understanding yourself. Yeah, it's gonna keep pushing you. These energies are going to keep pushing you deeper and deeper into yourself. What you fearing about yourself, what you're not dealing with yourself, it's gonna keep pushing you even deeper. If you ain't ready to go off the deep end, that shit gonna. Oh my God, we know that's not enough for you, is it? It's gonna keep repeating it to you because you haven't accepted it yet. It's gonna be like, yeah, man, you ain't accepted it yet. You keep saying it, but like, as I've said it before, like, it's easy for me to say that I am a God on lives and in public and with people and buck with it. But until I can sit in front of my mother and tell my mother that I am a God, what am I really doing? Until I can accept that family members are saying out loud out of their mouth, that nigga is a witch, that nigga is all these things. What does it mean when I say that shit on a post that I am a shaman, that I am a shadow shaman, occult therapist, spiritual life coach? None of that fucking matters because it's not backed by anything. Until I do the work, none of my shit's not backed by anything. So therefore, now naturally, I'm not backed by my ancestors. I'm not going to be backed by the spirit. I'm not going to be backed by the energy. I can't be backed and I can't pull my energy from that space because I'm not actively using it in every way, shape, and form. I'm not practically breaking it down. I'm steadily manifesting through detriment. I'm manifesting to stay split and not become whole. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here before I get in here. Oh yeah. Y'all stay tuned. There's gonna be more information. There's gonna be more information on the book, 30 states, the 30 states or the 30 states of deprivation. It is a tool that I'm creating that's based on using the 30-day fasting, using a 30-day fast, and using it into the states of self-discovery, self-forgiveness, and self-reflection. Those are the 3 prompts. It's 12 days of the self-discovery. You've seen most of the prompts. Self-discovery along with the exercises for those 12 days. Then the other 8 days are going to be of the aspect of the forgiving cycle or going through the infinite breath cycle through that exercises. And then the last, that was 28. No. That was 20. And then the last 10 days is the rebuilding yourself. It is not, as I always tell y'all, shadow work is not a one and done. It is an ongoing process. So just like the book can be broken down, you don't have to, like in the first initial aspect, we're going through the aspects of doing a water fast. But you can be fasting from taking away different aspects of yourself every single month and going through a 30-day cycle. It's now time for you to, it's really time for us to start focusing on programming and really programming shit before you can even think about manifesting everything, because it's going to be in detriment. What you going to do it to get stuck? Instead of looking at everything that is meant for you is outside of the spectrums of everything that you try to create within. I can guarantee it. I'm learning that shit I learned that shit firsthand. I went through like my 3rd or 4th or 5th, I can't even remember the damn number, of going through a process with myself of like, God damn, I don't go back years anymore. I don't go back like whole aspects of time. It's like I'm literally going back to the last 365 days, the last cycle. That's how much much work that I've done on myself that I don't have to keep going back into the past. Because when I go back into the past now, it's a celebration and a gratitude for it. Since it's a marker of gratitude back there, I don't have to go back there under some type of fear. Yeah, most definitely, of course. But yeah, everything that you go, like, it's really the aspect of breaking it down. I couldn't be where I'm at right now. We couldn't be having this conversation. And I humbly, with gratitude, say this. We couldn't be having this conversation. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I'm not looking for the impulse in it. I'm not looking for the heat, the rising, all that shit. Nigga, it's cold. It's chilly whenever I'm in the right space. It's chilly. It's a nice, it ain't heat. I'm chilly. Because I'm sitting in the spirit. Cold sweats. It means I'm further breaking away from shit. Cold sweats. Detoxing at all times. But yeah. Definitely hit me up in the inbox. We can set up an appointment for this week. Everybody else is going to be watching this, to not watching this. When you watch it on later, up top, got 2 links. Got 2 links up there, up top in the tippy top. First link, booking that session, consultation, any work with me. Second one, go check out Occult Alchemy. Store is fully back open. Use Papa Lucy 666 as the discount code. Only if you watch this video, you're going to hear it. I'm not going to write it down. You get 20% off your first purchase. Got a whole bunch of things coming through, because that's what we're supposed to keep doing. We're supposed to keep rising. Understand 3 things. Healing is destructive. You're deserving, but you're not entitled. And the level of honesty that you get into. Woo! It's going to change everything. Accept it. Be grateful for it. It's time. You got 2 choices. Evolve or repeat. I'm Papa Lucifer Samdi. You're a occult therapist, shadow shaman, spiritual life coach. Appreciate y'all for stopping through. Love you. We love us. Ashe.